Today we're speaking to Kenneth MacKenzie. Kenneth is the founder and chief executive of Target Fund Managers. He has over 40 years experience as a chartered accountant and has worked in the care sector for over 15 years. Welcome, Kenneth. Thank you very much for coming to Pivotal People and talking to us about what you do. What I want to do to start with is go back right to the beginning of your career and I want to sort of get you to tell us how you got to where you are now. So at the very beginning, when you started your career, how did it start and where were you and what were you doing?
So as a teenager, I was always interested in business. And if I wasn't training for rugby or playing rugby, I used to sit at the end of my father's desk, which was actually a board table, and go in at night after school and help him complete quotes and letters and check everything. At the time, he had 3 secretaries working full-time for him. So I was a little bit of an extra. So I always wanted to run my own business. That was what was always in my head from the very beginning. As part of that, decided that becoming a CA would be a useful core skill. So went to Aberdeen University. After that, did a CA training. Became a manager in what is today KPMG. And after about a year and a half of that, found the first business to acquire, which was in printing and publishing. The business was in difficulty. I managed to do a little turnaround. Ultimately, we owned all of the newspapers in the north of Scotland. And after 7 or 8 years of doing that, got a bit bored. Was doing too much leisure.
Yeah.
And we had an opportunity then to buy into a shipping business in the North Sea. I'd been involved a bit in the North Sea in my accounting training days in the start of the North Sea, so I knew that world reasonably well. And ultimately, over the next 10 years or so, built the largest fleet of ships in the North Sea,
Wow.
Which we then also sold. Then did some work in technology, managed to lose plenty of money in technology, ultimately managed to get it turned around a little. And by 2002, after having worked in America for most of the previous 2 years, when I left that business, I had to think about what would I do next. As part of thinking about that, I asked 3 friends who I knew really well over the previous 25 years of my business life to give me a half day of their time and explore with me my strengths and weaknesses and my values and my network. And if they had any ideas about what I should get into, to explore that with me also. One of these friends was the founder and chief executive of McDonald Hotels. And he would say I was a founder of that same business, McDonald Hotels. If I had sold one of the companies earlier, I would have gone into that full time. He said, I've often wondered about getting into care homes. I said, I don't think that's a good idea. If you do anything like that, why don't you do it in a joint venture with good friends of mine who are the founders of Sunrise Senior Living in America? And he said, what a great idea. Why don't you do that joint venture? Initially, we looked at length at the whole of the independent living sector for Sunrise. And ultimately, we didn't do anything in it, though I think it's right to say that 20 years ago, I saw every retirement village in the UK and had discussions with all of them. As we considered doing a startup in that space, I became aware of the need for a services business alongside the real estate side, and in 2005 bought Scotland's largest privately owned domiciliary care business, sold out of that 18 months later, and again in 2007-8 looking for what was I going to do next. By then I knew this sector reasonably well. Post 2008 global financial crisis, came up with the idea of creating a fund that would invest in modern purpose-built homes. By 2010, we had launched the first fund, which ultimately was sold in 2021. And in 2013, we launched Target Healthcare REIT. Here we are, 15 years later, same team doing the same thing, investing in modern purpose-built homes, trying to be in the forefront of bringing appropriate real estate to care for seniors in a holistic way.
Yeah, we've seen a massive change in that. I've been in care homes for almost 30 years, and we are seeing a massive change in the quality of the stock out there for the care home stock. There's a lot
And
more.
vastly needed.
Absolutely. However, we are losing some of the smaller converted houses that
For
used
which
to be.
we should be thankful.
We should. However,
Narrow corridors, too
narrow
many
corridors,
stairs,
very narrow lifts.
trip hazards.
Yes. So we are getting
How many wet rooms?
none usually.
And what's the big issue for residents in a care home?
Oh
Continence.
goodness! And if you haven't, I think.
And would we like to have that done in the common bathroom in a queue in the morning? 6
And we did.
wheelchairs.
We did. That's how we did it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're on a mission to change that.
Yeah. And I think the ensuite in a care home that's a wet room that we can just use. We can use it for the person's privacy, dignity. It's so much easier than having to, you're right, queue up for a bathroom in the morning.
But the sadness of the sector in many ways is that the sector generally speaks about en-suites, and there are 250,000 of them that are WCs and wash and basins.
Yes, there are, and they're not en suites. But yeah, I mean,
But why does the sector call them en-suites?
it's a good point. It's a very good point.
When we started, 11% of the beds had wet rooms. Today
11%?
it's 30. Yeah. When 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Today it's 32 or 33%.
Still not much, is it?
And we would see ourselves as being in the vanguard of speaking about that. I think most people in the sector would say that Kenneth drones on about that. But I actually think that it's fundamental to providing great facilities for the carers to be able to care for the resident. And the carers in this sector are not valued enough. So we want to provide fabulous real estate for the carers to look after the resident.
I recently commissioned a brand new build.
Good.
Really a luxury care home. And those facilities, we even had 3/4 beds that were hospital beds.
Sure.
We had massive rooms, and it makes a big difference. And to be able to have a cinema,
Sure.
and things that you can, if you can't get out, you can't do things out there, bring it into the care homes. The activities that we do in care homes is used to be very different to how that is now, and that's because of the facilities we've got. We're able to do more, and technology.
Well, you're on the front line of actually delivering the care. Our role is more the back office to try and provide you the right product.
But without the right
But
product.
we endlessly admire the people that do the job properly.
Absolutely. And I think what we do at Fulcrum is we support those people to enable them to do their job properly. We support them to get it right. The care home managers they have a very challenging role, and they need the support. But again, without the facility, they can't do their job properly. So it's very important what you do.
Yeah, and one of the other missions we've been on and have been speaking to our operators over the 15 years about is career progression for the care home manager. So 15 years ago, it was very common for care home managers to be at 25,000, 30,000 a year. And today we know of many care home managers in 6 figures.
Absolutely.
And so it should be.
As it should be. It's the key role.
Yeah.
And I think if that's right and the facilities are right, the care home manager can create an amazing environment for people to live. So tell me a little bit about where you think the care industry is going. So from your point of view, from what you've just said, we're losing all the small independent houses and we're turning them into big luxury care homes. Is that where you think we're going?
So one of the things we try and do when we induct people into our business, and we're very strongly a values-based business, is take them into some of the real estate that is being replaced. And without fail, they are a bit shocked by what the industry has accepted as the norm. So we think there will be some conversions still, because some are done really well.
Yes, they are, yeah.
But there is a vast number that are just not fit for purpose because of trip hazards, because of corridors not wide enough.
Steps, little bits of steps and different levels.
All kinds of things. And then the lack of wet rooms. So, we have 2 or 3 examples where we have taken a 75 or 80 bed home and turned it into a 45 bed home that is fit for the future. And we will continue to do that. But there is also going to be a major redevelopment of modern purpose-built homes, which are truly fit for purpose, especially as the sector interacts increasingly with the NHS and many of the challenges of the NHS. So we have homes where GPs and specialists are based in our homes.
Yeah, that is the way forward, isn't it? Yeah. We've been talking about integration for years, and never really
one of our
got
homes,
there.
I think, has 3 doctors permanently on the staff.
Yeah. So how many homes are you running right now?
About 105. Yeah, we don't run them, but we support them. And probably the other very unusual thing about us is that we have 4 people who are full-time physically in the homes. So we describe ourselves as an engaged landlord. It's a conscious decision by us as fund managers to be supportive and helpful to our tenants and just to encourage in best practice. So we understand what's going on in the homes in some significant detail.
So you've run a lot of businesses, and I understand you've also got charitable interests. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about your charitable interests.
Well, it all comes out of a Christian worldview, of a personal relationship with the Lord Saviour Jesus Christ. That is core to who I am. So flowing from that, 30 years plus on the board of the largest Bible translation organization in the world, called Wycliffe Bible Translators. Just recently retired from 30 years in prison fellowship, which is
Really?
Volunteers going into prison, trying to help rehabilitation, and a host of others.
Yeah. Very good, very good.
But
I think
these are the 2 30-year ones, but quite a number of others. There's also an academy working with future leaders. There's a host of things that I get involved in.
Good.
In
You enjoy that, I suppose, as much as you do the...
Yeah, and well, I also have a few grandchildren, so I enjoy family too.
Yes, absolutely. Family, The grandchildren give us lots of pleasure, don't they?
Yeah, I think a core issue for society is, where are our values? And do we understand what values really mean? Or is it only a lip service kind of ephemeral British values and we don't understand what that means? So, I come at this from a Christian worldview.
As a last question, Kenneth, what I really want to ask you is, take yourself back to that teenager sat at his dad's desk. If you could go back and give him a piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Find a role and a vision and a mission that you are wholeheartedly devoted to. Don't spend too much time on the periphery of life, and focus on the mission and vision for your life purpose, and live well to that end.
What an amazing answer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, Kenneth. We really appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Okay.